How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk. Great question sent my way. Hey, Gange, is there an us versus them mentality behind the wall? And what I mean by us versus them is it frontline staff versus inmates. Is that how we work? Is that how we roll every day? Now, I did a video prior that talked about the us versus them mentality, but that was between frontline and administration, and it's a mentality that developed over time. Basically one party feeling that they're not being heard, they're not being listened to. And that could develop animosity, definitely resistance. But do we have it behind the wall between us and the inmates? And I want to discuss that, because I don't think that's a simple answer. And I know a lot of people are going to think that the answer is automatically yes. Of course it's us versus them. And I would disagree. And I'm going to explain why when we come back from our break.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
Thank you guys for listening to my sponsors. I'm going to keep this quick because we've kind of touched on this before, and I just want to kind of go over some more details. I don't believe in the us versus them mentality, even though I believe that's kind of what's being fostered now with these unbalanced changes to corrections. But I never carried myself where I came into work and I thought it was me versus the inmate, population. I just don't think that's the right thing. And the reason why is if I had an issue with one inmate or two inmates, whatever the case may be, I was able to keep that issue with those inmates. I didn't generalize those issues out, because at the end of the day, you got inmates that are following the rules, and the last thing I want is for inmates to unite. And I think that when you start generalizing issues out, it gives the inmates a reason to unite and feel justified in that unity. And I don't want that. I want to be able to deal with issues that I can control. And again, people may think that's us versus every inmate, and that's not the case. Usually if we have problems, there are a selected few, and when we deal with those issues, most of the inmates will come up and even say thank you. That's something that's never really put out there, but it's the truth. Our job is to run a safe and secure facility and encourage programming. That's what we're supposed to do, the rehabilitation aspect. Right now, unfortunately, there's a lot of tension in the correctional system, and you can see it at Rikers. Rikers is a great example of just tension. It's kind of like the Ferguson, if you will, of police. Rikers is, or has gone through a lot of unbalanced changes that has kind of fostered us versus them mentality. The unbalanced changes have kind of really split us into two separate groups, not realizing that these groups need to interact with each other. So both groups have been put into like survival mode, and that's not the case. Basically when we go into work, I'm not going to say it's us and them, but there is a working relationship that we have with the inmate population. There always has been. I don't care what any officer, if they tell you something different, there's a working relationship that we have with the inmate population. They know what to expect from us. We know what to expect from them. And that kind of helps us get through our days, our career, if you will. But when you have unbalanced change and you feel that only one side is being heard and the other side's kind of being ignored, there's animosity that's going to build, and that's natural. Yeah, and I'm sure people that are making these changes, they should know this. And when you start building that animosity, now you're creating an environment that's very hostile and really fosters two separate independent groups. And that both groups are kind of in survival mode, you know, acting on desperation. But one side's definitely pissed. One side is pissed. One side's pissed because they're not getting their concerns met. Changes are on balance. And they feel because they're not getting their concerns met, they're not being heard, they're being ignored, they're not being recognized. And that forces them in kind of like a desperation mode. Think about this, guys. You're working behind that wall, and it's survival. The moment that gate closes behind you, you're in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, what we expect is that there's laws that are passed that help us. You know, that we don't have to take matters into our own hands all the time because we have laws that are above us that are going to help us. You know, so if something goes wrong, we have a little trust in the system that they're going to do the right thing to deter it from happening again. Unfortunately, one side doesn't feel that. And they have a right not to feel that because they really haven't had any changes that was beneficial to them, especially the taking away of certain tools that could be employed to better manage troubled inmates. And when they feel that they're ignored, you're talking about survival now, they become desperate. And again, I'm not condoning their actions, but you have to think logically. It makes sense. They're not being heard. They have to survive. So it makes sense that they become desperate. And out of survival, they start taking things into their own hands. So when you have that, on top of the us versus them mentality that's been fostered, you can't be shocked when you see that assaults have risen. You've created the environment. You created the environment that's conducive to that. You got tension. You got two parties that are kind of going at each other, equal force, waiting for that one shift. You know, that one give, grab, boom, it's up. You know, it blows up. Kind of, again, what happened in Ferguson. It was more of the underlying causes that really caused things to blow up because you have these concerns elsewhere, but it was Ferguson that had the major riots because there was underground tension going on that was waiting for something to erupt. And again, at that point, you know, again, not taking sides, but it's true. There was underground tension and it just a moment that could have been easily dealt with somewhere else. It was that threshold in Ferguson. So we're seeing it now in corrections, especially in Rikers. You're seeing that threshold. You know, they're fed up, and now things that could be simple elsewhere, it's going to explode at Rikers because of the underlying issues. So what we need to do is we need to create balanced change that is beneficial to both parties. And the way to create that balanced change is to understand that the one party, us, protects the other party. You cannot create change that isolates the protector. It just doesn't work. And right now, people seem to just go after the symptom. Officer and inmate go at it. You know, they deal with them as individuals, which is kind of, they got to be held accountable for their actions. But that's just the symptom. The underground causes the atmosphere, the tension that's been created by unbalanced change. So you need to go back to the board and look at the changes that you created, but be objective when you look at it. You know, talk to the front line. Say, hey, listen, what's going on? Listen to them. Because if you keep on creating these unbalanced changes, I mean, as again, you got to look at Rikers. This is the outcome of unbalanced change. And this is what's happened across the nation. And it will eventually foster an us versus them mentality. And you will see acts of desperation that you normally would never see before. But that's because one side is in survival mode because they're not being heard, because they feel that they're backed in a corner. And again, I'm not justifying their actions, but let's think logically. It makes sense. It's definitely it's definitely a perspective that we need to take into account. And if we don't, it's going to happen. We're going to have little explosions all over the country. And then we go back, we could have fixed it. We could have created changes that were beneficial to both parties, but we decided not to do that. It's sad. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk, just a little vlog. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, interact, engage, and hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. As always, guys, again, the show is Tear Talk. My name is Anthony Gangi. Stay safe.